Move on and we can talk about Tottenham Hotspur, Paul. Now, we actually saw a couple of, I'd say, key squad personnel release, some players that I think fans are a bit surprised by. What were your thoughts on some of those that are leaving the club this summer?
It's just a sign that the manager wants to remould his squad, and it's a sign that he's been able to do what he wants, which is good for me. Listen, whether your own personal opinion on players, whether you like certain players or you think they would fit in, you employ a manager and you trust the manager to do his job. And I think the signs this season, the way that the team played under Ange, the results that they got, the performances, the manager's got every right to not solely. He'll have had a discussion. There'll be discussions with the board, with the recruitment. I think Paratici's, obviously, his fingerprints are still all over a lot of Tottenham's transfers, incomings and outgoings. But the manager's earned the right this season. You put your trust in a man that you employ to do a job, and you've got to give him the tools to allow him to do that. And I think it shows that the club have allowed him to do that, or are allowing him to do that, by releasing players, moving players on, whatever he wants to do. He's got to create space in that dressing room for players that he wants and he's going to utilise. There's no point in keeping players on that wage bill that he knows he's going to use once or twice in the early rounds of the League Cup or the early rounds of the European Cup competitions. He's got to have a squad that he wants to go forward, that he wants to make the team better, and he wants to compete regularly on a regular basis. He's not going to do it in one window. He's not going to do it in two windows, but you've got to allow him the time and space to do it.
And Pete, before we touch on some key names, how many signings are we expecting at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this summer? Are we expecting a bit of an overhaul, as Paul's just mentioned, with some of those names going? Do you think it could be quite a busy summer, actually, for Ange and the squad?
Yeah, I expect it to be busy at Tottenham. It was busy last summer, to be fair to them as well. Ange has come out and said he would like the squad to be bolstered. They've got European football to contend with next season as well, so that's going to put a strain on the squad. So he will need reinforcements in there. There's no doubts about that. Of the 4 players that they released, there was no massive surprises. 2 of them were out on loan anyway, with Eric Dyer at Bayern Munich and Tanganga at Millwall. The big sort of disappointment probably is Ryan Sessegnon, who obviously has been so unlucky with injuries. Tottenham fans haven't seen the best of him due to those injuries, so it was a bit sad probably for the supporters to see him move on as well. So we just hope he can get fit and fulfil that potential that he did show when Tottenham signed him from Fulham all those years ago as well. But yeah, I think there's certain areas of the team that Ange would like to strengthen in. Centre-back, as we know, is one area of the team that they would like to bring in cover for the likes of Van de Ven and Romero, who obviously Van de Ven had some injury problems last season, and Romero, we know, will probably miss a few games through suspension throughout the season and everything else. I think a new central defensive midfielder will be something that Ange Postecoglou would like to bring in to improve the squad, if that's possible as well. We know that they are looking for midfield reinforcements. Conor Gallagher is a name that's not going to go away. His name will get bandied about as Tottenham have shown previous interest in him, and I'm sure Tottenham are actively monitoring that situation between Gallagher and Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, especially with this upcoming June 30th deadline for the accounts to be filed. It still does seem that Chelsea would be willing to let Conor Gallagher leave before that date. Obviously, I think lots of suggestions was that one of the reasons Mauricio Pochettino ended up leaving Chelsea was because he wanted to keep Gallagher, but Chelsea's power brokers are insisting that they do listen to offers for him because he is a homegrown player and will be pure profit and will help them in a long way to sort of deal with FFP and PSR and help balance the books as well. So he's a name to keep an eye on again. Morgan Gibbs-White is another player that's on Tottenham's radar for that attacking midfielder position as well. And I do think they've brought in Timo Werner on another loan from Leipzig. So that was a no-brainer, as we discussed last week. Getting Werner on loan, he just adds cover, versatility. He can play anywhere across that front line as well. But I do think bringing in another versatile forward is probably another area of the team that Ange would like to bring in, somebody who can sort of score goals on a regular basis.
And Pete, one name that was mentioned was En-Nesyri. I know he's obviously a top number 9. Do you think that it's now sort of guaranteed that Spurs will be going for an out-and-out forward and looking at a striker potentially rather than looking at a versatile forward? You'd say like a Timo Werner.
Yeah, I think obviously a number 9. It's what most clubs look for every summer transfer window because goals win you games. And obviously Tottenham didn't replace the goals of Harry Kane last season. They obviously had Richarlison up front as well, but again, he didn't produce the goals that probably the Tottenham fans were demanding from him. So, Son was playing out wide on the left sometimes and then down the middle as well. And I thought he did a decent job when he led the line in a number 9 role as well. Again, I think he's such a versatile player that you could play him anywhere in that Tottenham team as well. So yeah, bringing in a number 9 who can help lead the line, score the goals, would be beneficial to Tottenham this upcoming season. And I think obviously Ange Postecoglou knows if they are to close the gap on the rest of the Premier League, they're gonna need a regular goal scorer in that side. And there's obviously a number of names that have been linked with a potential move to Tottenham. You've got the likes of Ivan Toney, Jimenez from Feyenoord as well. And again, the problem is when you want these number 9s, they don't come cheap. So, and there's going to be a lot of competition for their services as well. So I think it's a hard deal to do, but I think it's a deal that Tottenham really need to get this one right if they are to continue the progress under Ange.
Paul, do you feel that someone like En-Nesyri would fit the bill at Tottenham? Or obviously, I know we've discussed Ivan Toney and Solanke before. And then actually with someone potentially incoming, what does that mean for Richarlison's future?
Yeah, Richarlison's future's up in the air without a doubt. I mean, he's been a bit part player this season. He's not scored enough goals, and he hasn't done. Plays as a 9 for his national team, but he's never really got going at Tottenham and scored the amount of goals that you would expect or you'd want from a number 9. Son's played there, and he's got the goals. He's carried the can. But they've always had this problem, Tottenham, for a number of years. They've never, if Harry Kane doesn't play, who plays as a 9? That's what they've always had, and it's been a difficult sell. You know, they've tried over a number of transfer windows. They've brought in players on loan. They've brought in players to cover Harry Kane. But how would you get a player, you know, to come to you who says you can play when Harry doesn't? I mean, he's 99% of the time he's fit. They've always had difficulty in getting cover for him. So Sonny's had to play there when Harry hasn't played there. Now Harry Kane's gone, moved on to Bayern Munich. We all know what he achieved last season. It was incredible, the goals he scored. But for Tottenham, there's still that hole there. There isn't that number 9. En-Nesyri at Sevilla, he's a good goal scorer. He's 27 now, over 140 appearances. I think he's got very, very experienced at international level. Hasn't played the Premier League, though, at the top level, in the top 4 or top 5 of the Premier League. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts. But for me, there's no better opportunity to go and get Ivan Toney. No better. I mean, it's gone quiet. Arsenal have been linked with him since January. There was a huge clamour that Arsenal were going to go and get him in January. That's quietened. The link there now is quietened. That's gone away. We don't know what's going on there. It looks like, potentially, that Tottenham could go up against West Ham for his signature. And if Tottenham are going up against West Ham, you'd like to fancy your chances from a Tottenham point of view of being able to persuade the player to come. So to get a player like Ivan Toney with his international experience, the goal scoring that he's proved he can do in the Premier League, a club like Brentford, who aren't a top 6 club, they're not a top 8 club. They're a very, very good, well-run, steady Premier League football club who have achieved, you know, very good things by staying in the league and being competitive. But for a player like Ivan Toney to be able to get him now with the lack of competition seemingly around, listen, there's going to be other suitors for them. But I think if you look at the clubs that would potentially go for his signature, from a Tottenham fan's point of view, I'd be very, very disappointed if my club wasn't taking. If the club wants him, go and get him now. There's no better opportunity.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.